I think that reference will be lost on one.
Yeah, it might be, yeah. It's a bit... Oh, these are high stools.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Bellator HQ, Bellator Europe HQ over here, and our latest announcement. Oh, 1, 2. Are you there? Hello, hello, hello. Should we swap?
Yeah, swap that one.
1, 2. No. 1, 2. Someone switched me off already.
Phasing down.
1, 2. Here we go. Well, I'll start again. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Bellator Europe HQ and our latest announcement. And before I go on to talk about our latest signing, I just want to give you a quick recap of where we are now. We're a few months in to the whole Bellator Europe project. We've done 3 events now, starting with Newcastle in January, obviously Birmingham follow that, and we get to Wembley in London in June, and we've seen a nice steady growth for Bellator across that time, certainly in terms of television audiences as well. For London, in June we got almost 650,000 viewers, 4% share with 6.6 for 16 to 34, so we're really seeing some growth there, and it's by far and away the biggest watched MMA in the UK this year. We've also had some great viral moments. I think if anyone saw the Birmingham event, we had Raymond Daniels delivered us a knockout that basically did the rounds around the world, probably one of the most exciting and talked about knockouts we've seen in recent memory. I think it's clicking over about 25 million views virally, just over in that weekend. And then, of course, we've got very grateful to our Sky Sports deal, I think, which has really helped bring awareness to Bellator in that you can watch all of the international fights over there, and the subsequent coverage on Sky Sports News, I think, gives us a whole new fan base. And people in the UK will be able to see the likes of the heavyweight belt fight next week in San Jose, and then we got our $1 million welterweight championship just been announced for October. So great coverage, great access all around the world, which brings me on to our latest signing that we're very, very excited about. Obviously, doesn't need too much of an introduction. A huge rugby club history, 77 caps for England, playing on the international stage. DJ, and I think fair to say raconteur, Mr. James Haskell. Thank you very much.
How you doing? You all right? Thank you, David. I appreciate that introduction. It's very nice. Normally, nobody speaks that nicely about me, so I'll take it.
Well, it's a press conference. We'll do that first.
Oh, thank you, yeah.
I'll come to the crowd for some questions in a bit, but I first just wanted to talk to James about this quite dramatic switching of sports.
Yeah, look, I think when you kind of came and talked to me about it, I'd done some work with Bama before. We'd done some presenting stuff, and when you contacted me, I thought, oh, brilliant. You know, I'm now finished in rugby. I've obviously got an interest in MMA, maybe you're going to offer me some more work. And then you dropped the bombshell that you wanted me to fight. So once I'd stopped nervously laughing, it kind of piqued my interest. I thought, look, I had a real interest, a real passion in this. I went back to my wife. She didn't find it as funny. Obviously looked at me like I was kind of mad. The first thing I did was pick up the phone to the guys at London Shoot Fighters and said to them, I've known them since I was 21. And I said, listen, guys, I've trained down there. You know I love this sport. You know, what do you think about me taking it on? What do you think about me giving it a go? And unanimously came back and gave their support. And I said, listen, would they train me? Because I think for me that was a real important factor. That, you know, they're one of the toughest, one of the hardest, kind of one of the most successful MMA gyms in the UK. And I knew that I'd be in good hands. They'd known me, they knew my career, they knew kind of my limitations. And I talked to my friends and I talked to my family, and you know, it was overwhelming kind of support for doing it. And I think that I've gone out of one sport which has been very attritional, very tough, going into something that's very unknown. I think personally there's a large element of fear involved. I think anyone who says that they're not scared of this kind of thing is either lying or coming up with pretense. I think for me, I want to test myself. I was always going to do the training. I was always going to do the Jiu-Jitsu, the boxing, the wrestling. I've always enjoyed that. You know, a lot of time over the last kind of 10 years with Shoot Fighters, I worked a lot on my wrestling to help with my tackling, my takedown, single leg, double leg, whatever it might be. And I've really enjoyed it. And I think look, MMA is completely different because you've got to do all those disciplines while someone's trying to elbow, knee you, punch you in the face. And I think, Mike Tyson said it, everyone's got a plan until you get hit in the face. But I think for me, it's a test. I think it's a journey. I've missed the kind of structure and discipline. I now know where I have to be, and I go back to having a real professional dedication. I think Bellator are, for me, the best at what they do. They've got loads of transference from other sports. They're incredible. They're developing. And they've offered me an opportunity that, for me, is about the journey more so than anything else. About a personal test. It's about seeing what I've got inside myself, seeing whether I can deal with it. I know the way that the London Shoot Fighters guys train. They take you to a pretty dark place. And I think sometimes, when I left rugby and I bought my first commercial gym membership, which is a real shock to my system, and I went in there and I saw people training, I thought, you know what, I've got to get out of here and I've got to get into a proper gym. And they've already started flogging me. I've been at it kind of 4 or 5 weeks already. We've obviously got a long period of time before I get into the cage because I want to make sure I'm ready. I want to make sure that that when they say I'm ready, listen to my coaches, and it's nice and I'm excited. And listen, I've never been an individual sportsman. I've always had a team. I've always had a press conference, but I was always a small cog. And now everyone's here to listen to me, rightly or wrongly, and you can't escape.
And I mean, we know that rugby is a really physical sport, but very different to MMA. I mean, is there some similarities or some takeover there?
There is, but I think you're kidding yourself if you think that it's there's that clear of crossovers. I think there's a lot of stuff that rugby can derive from MMA in terms of body control, takedown, the general body conditioning, that ability to get up, take down, fight, be able to and constantly be able to work. Very similar to work in the tackle area. Obviously the takedown, single leg, double leg, those ability to get your feet in close. Those are real tackle aids. Obviously in rugby league, there's a lot of transference with the Jiu-Jitsu ability to control someone onto their back, hold them, arm drags, arm locks, all that kind of stuff. But actually, look, it is very different, and I think that's why I'm, eager, and I'm already underway. Today we kind of had the Sky press stuff. I've been training already, back to shoot fighters, come back here. I'm not messing around with this. I think, a lot of people, it's been overwhelming support, but I think some people think it's a bit like, a scene out of like Rocky 3 where he's wearing golden gloves and training and it's all showbiz and everything else like that, and he gets absolutely filled in by Clubber Lang. That's not what I'm about. I'm dedicating my life to this. I want to make sure that I'm in the best possible shape. Whatever happens at the end of it, I'm going to put as much dedication I put into this as I did to rugby, and I'm deadly serious about it. So, everything we're trying to do with the sponsors, the people we want to work with, I want them to help me on my journey. I don't want this to be a case of where you get into the cage and it looks like I've never taken a punch before. It looks like I'm just here for fun, and because I'm not about that. I said to Chloe, look, if I was going to do it, we were going to do it really properly. And I've now started to have a look at, again, my nutrition, which she's kind of taken care of because she's kind of the guru in that. I'm probably in one of the best body composition I've ever been in at the moment, looking at recovery, trying to get cryotherapy, looking at all these kind of things, all these elements to make sure I can be in the best possible shape to execute my first fight.
I mean, you tell me you're actually in better condition, or you feel in better condition than you did training constantly in rugby now.
Yeah, very much so. I think, look, I believe rugby puts you in a great place. It's a very a tough sport. You have to peak every weekend. I've openly said on my podcast, House of Rugby, and different things, that I think that we overtrain sometimes in rugby. We don't nail the recovery right. We do things sometimes out of fear. Actually, now being in control of my own diet and my own body and stuff is been quite different. Obviously now I'm going back into a gym where they are tough. They believe in heavy sparring, they believe in doing that kind of work, but they also know that I'm a 34-year-old ex-rugby player.
That's a young lad for a heavyweight.
Yeah, exactly. And I only look 21, but they've got to make sure they look after me and we do it properly, but also help me advance and be the best fighter I can be. And I think I don't think I was interviewed earlier. Do I think I'm a fighter? Well, I didn't. I do now. Do I think I'm the toughest bloke in the world? No. I wish people would stop offering me out. I've got a load of random ex-rugby players keep offering me out fighting. I've got weird nutters on social media offering me a fight. Listen, I'm going to fight in the cage. That's where I'm going to keep my business, and I'm going to do what my coaches tell me to do, and that's the extent of it. I'm still more chat than anything else before anyone gets carried away.
You did have Joe Marler offer to be your sparring partner.
I did, but if you notice actually on that clip, which no one commented on, was my unbelievable takedown, then straight into side control, ready to fill him in. What I didn't do was hammer punch him to the head, because that would have got me a red card. I sadly still got a yellow card, and I complained like a little girl. So, I went to 2019, I complained like a little boy. Sorry, whatever.
But what's the general action? I mean, I saw a great quote from Eddie Jones. I mean, he said he's bought tickets for your first fight. I don't know how he's quite managed that. Because we haven't got on sale yet, but he seems very enthusiastic.
When he says he bought tickets, what he means is he messaged me saying, "Can I have tickets, mate, for your first fight?" And I said, "Of course." And then he made the joke about not wanting to get my blood on him. So we might have to get him a nice little waterproof anorak. But hopefully I won't get any blood anywhere.
But you were training with the England team last week as well, so the reaction was pretty good?
Yeah, it was mega. It was actually, do you know what, it was just the day before, so I came down and I talked to a couple of teammates without revealing anything, and I said, "Listen, I'm going to announce something that I think you're first of all going to think, what's he doing? Then you may laugh, and then you might be interested." So I texted one of my mates and said, "Have you stopped laughing yet?" And he said, "Just about." And but they're excited. I think it was great to be down in the England camp and see the guys and how hard they're training. I think I missed that. It was actually quite nice because I've had a good summer. I've been DJing, I've been working, I've been all over the place. I've been training, obviously, on my own. But whenever it came to rugby or anything, I kind of got a little bit melancholy. I was a bit down about it. I found it hard to kind of follow that stuff. But actually, to go into England camp to see them, they gave me a coach's polo shirt, which was unbelievable. First time I was ever had any authority. I made them respect me, and I made them call me coach. It was great. But then obviously this news broke the next day, and I've been speaking to them subsequently, and I've been loving it. And back down at Shoot Fighters, again, I'm surrounded by lads, A, a whole set of lads who could fill me in, but B, more importantly, that we've got that camaraderie, we've got that chat, everyone's working hard, everyone's got a common goal, and I love that. I think, I mean, you have to ask Chloe, but I think I've probably calmed down a little bit. And obviously, I'm certainly probably looking pretty tired and knackered most of the time because, I had about a month, 2 months where my body started to feel brilliant again. And I thought, actually, I might go out this rugby lark unscathed. And then I did a 2-hour wrestling session the other day and couldn't rotate my head and turned up to a wedding and they were like, "Retirement's going well for you." I was like, "Yeah, thanks."
Well, I'm really excited about the adventure. I think we're going to take some questions from the crowd first, and then we'll have a little scrum with James after that. So have we got any questions out there?
Hey, James. Steve Bill, Battles Combat Sports Journal. Nice to see you.
Hello, mate.
So, James, I'm really intrigued about the training. Thank you. So really intrigued about your training at Shoe Fighters and otherwise. What's the day-to-day at the moment? What would a future camp look like? Who are your coaches and who are your sparring partners? Because it can't be easy to find somebody your kind of size and athleticism.
Well, I mean, I like how you said athleticism with sort of high-pitched inverted commas. I think, yeah. I think, look, firstly, everything that I do is controlled by them. I'm working one-on-one a lot with Paul from Shoot Fighters. Obviously, Alexis and Maris. Those guys are the linchpins of London Shoot Fighters. They dictate everything. At the moment, obviously, a large portion of my time is spent stand-up, wrestling. Obviously dealing with the ground stuff. They've got a plan in terms of what they feel I'd be good at and what I need to execute. They're obviously watching consistently, my limitations, how I'm going to act. I mean, I'm pretty much in there minimum 3 times a week at the moment for 2 hours a time. I do a lot of one-on-one stuff. I join in with classes. There's actually some pretty big lumps down there. And, I tell a story that the very first time I went down to London Shoot Fighters when I was 21, Alexis wanted to show me and my best mate Paul Doran Jones about technique over aggression and everything else. They put me in the cage with this guy who's 50 kgs, right? And he was a wrestler, Chechen guy. And he did a double leg takedown on me, picked me up, folded me up like a travel mat and stuffed me on the floor. So I was obviously confidence a bit dented. So I decided I'll have a go again, step it up a little bit, went to grab him. He swung round underneath me, took my back, threw me on the floor. So I went out the cage with a tail between my legs, tagged my mate in. And he then did a shot, single leg, picked my mate up above his head, bear in mind, he's 120 kgs versus 50 kgs, and stuffed him on the floor. So that showed us that technique wins out 99% over anything, and aggression doesn't matter how big you are. So there are plenty of people at London Shoot Fighters to fill me in, sparring-wise. We've also got some big lumps in there, so I'm pretty much taken care of. But at the moment, I'm back to school, and every day's a school day, and they're just teaching me and they're controlling me. But rest assured that my conditioning, my training is hard, it's intense, but it's clever. They haven't stuck me in a cage and let someone beat the crap out of me for, an hour, because that's no good to anyone.
What's your best submission?
My best submission?
Yeah, what's your go-to?
I've got a nice little Kimura, maybe a guillotine. Hey, listen, it's early days. Let's see how we get on before we get too carried away, all right? Or my favourite submission is what, when I go to sleep and tap out, you mean? Or
that's not going to happen.
Lie on the floor and pretend to sleep.
What's significantly different from the rugby training regime, conditioning regime? Are there changes you've had to make to strength and conditioning and nutrition and areas like that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I obviously went into summer thinking I retired, so a certain amount of vanity. I wanted to get as lean as possible. A lot of tops off in summer months, a lot of trips away. So Chloe did all my calories to that. I went from 121 kgs when I finished to 112.7, real lean. Obviously then decided to do this, realised I'm going to be fighting in the heavyweight category, so 119, 260. So I've obviously gone back. The amount of calories I'm burning, I do a normal weight session, you're probably burning about 500 calories. Tops, conditioning session, same. My first hour of shadow and pad work, I burnt 860 calories. So I've got to up everything, change everything. I'm trying to obviously maintain weight. There's no running. Obviously, all my conditioning is blocks of 5 minutes, flat out. There's obviously some longer steady state work required, but I was already training. I was already doing those fitness levels. I don't have to run anymore, which is amazing because running is so boring unless you're Mo Farah. So I'm pretty much quite comfortable with the training and stuff, and they dictate everything. I just come in and I just go, yes, coach, no, coach. And I try not to cry every now and then.
And I've seen it's great hearing that the England rugby team are very excited about your fledgling MMA career. What do you think the average rugby fan thinks?
I don't know what the average rugby fan thinks, and if I'll be completely honest with you, I don't care. As long as they support me, then it's good. If they don't, they don't. I think, look, I'm very lucky. I've got a great fan base, but I'm like Marmite, always have been. People either love me or hate me. There'll be naysayers. There'll be people who criticise. If I listened to anybody or worried what they thought, I never would leave the house. So I would say that 99% of support's been overwhelming. I think there's a few people who don't understand how the fight game works, and they keep thinking I'm going to be put in against Bader for my first fight, or Czech Congo and get absolutely filled in. They don't really understand how it works, but mostly they're excited, and hopefully they'll support me. But if they don't, Bellator's got an incredible fan base, and so many people have reached out already and been super supportive. So I'm looking forward to it.
Lots of luck, and well done you.
James Field, Duncan PA. I was just wondering, you said earlier that it's going to be a long period of time before you get in the cage. I was just wondering if you've got a timeline or a time frame as to when you expect to actually have that first fight.
No, I don't. I think for me, it's when my coaches think I'm ready. When we in discussion with Bellator management, they make those decisions. I want to make sure that I'm in a good place for this. This is not about PR. This is not about anything else. This is about me taking on a new challenge and taking it very seriously, committing to it, and being dedicated. So other people outside my pay grade make those decisions. I just know that. I've transitioned from one sport to another. I've just started on this journey. Everything takes time. Practice makes perfect, and I'm committing, as much time as I can to getting it right, and others will decide.
How you doing? Ben Casey, MMA.show. But question for both of you, really. You've talked, obviously, James, you're a huge star, both inside and on and off the pitch. Where kind of do you see your first fight being? Is it a potential main event? Obviously, he's got a huge following behind him. So it's a question for both of you, really. James, do you feel you could step up and do the 5 rounds, five-minute rounds?
Well, I think first of all, I say, there's a reason why we signed James, and obviously we're really pleased with the reaction. It was fantastic last week. We're on BBC Sport main page all day, things like that, it's really interesting for MMA. That's what we're always trying to do. We love the sport here, but it's always about bringing new fans to the sport and getting them a chance to see it and get hooked into it. And I think that's why I was very interested in signing James, and I think it'll be a fantastic adventure and very exciting to see him get in there for the first time. He certainly won't be doing a 5-round title fight. He'll be fighting someone of similar experience to him. The obvious location is in the UK, and we're hoping for, first half of next year. So we'll see how we get on with the training, and we'll be making some announcements soon.
Thank you.
Anyone else out there?
Hi, James. Training with London Shoot for as long as you have, for conditioning and strength and as a crossover training experiment for rugby, so to speak, how has it changed now you're actually going to be preparing for a fight? How's it been ramping up in the gym, and what additional elements have they been working in? Or have you been training the full gamut of MMA techniques from day dot?
Look, I think when I first went into, shoot fighters, the idea was we shared a physio, a guy called Kevin Lidlow, who's kind of saved me in my career since 17 to kind of 34. And, he's treated a lot of the guys from London Shoot Fighters we met at in the waiting room. We started talking about wrestling, the importance of wrestling, how it would really help me, they felt would help me. So I started going down and doing those wrestling classes, doing one-on-one stuff with Paul, practicing my takedowns. Then I started getting a real insight into Jiu-Jitsu, and I started doing stuff with Roger Gracie at their place. I did Jiu-Jitsu there. When I moved to New Zealand, I was in Dunedin. I unfortunately got banned for 5 weeks for throwing a punch, ironically. I spent a lot of time at New Zealand Fight and Fitness doing boxing, jiu-jitsu the whole time. But obviously these were like infrequent bits. I've been a professional rugby player, and as I got older in my career, my week used to be ridiculous. I used to, play a game on a Saturday, Sunday, Monday recover, Tuesday go out to shoot fighters, Wednesday go and see my mate, Thursday we'll be back into training. And I was knackered by the time I was getting to game time. So as I got older, I've whittled that away. So now I've gone back to starting with them. I go in every, few months, do some pad work with them, do a bit of wrestling. Now I've got nothing else to worry about. So they dictate everything. So my training is incremental. We're looking to, obviously, you said to start the fighting game next year. But there's a lot of work to be done between now and then, and they dictate everything. So I don't have a say in it at all. I just tell them when I can be there. I turn up, I'm warmed up, and I'm ready to go. And they work on different stuff. They feel, having prepared a number of fighters, they've got a lot of fighters in Bellator at the moment. They've had fighters in the other mob, we won't mention their name, and they've done lots of different bits and pieces. So I'm very confident. I don't have any, but I just mean in terms of some of the intensity, that you're working for that 2-hour period. My first session was, an hour of stand-up work, straight into a wrestling class, straight into something else. 2 hours. I can't imagine how much water I lost from sweating and how many calories I burned. But that wrestling session the other day, I reckon you're looking at 1,400 calories burnt through that thing, which is mammoth compared to what we usually put up with. And it's mentally tough, because rugby obviously is an element of repetition, but it's a free-flowing sport. This is free-flowing, but you're constantly drilling stuff. Drill, get up, get slammed to fall, get up, get slammed to fall, get up, get slammed to fall. And it's that kind of repetition, but that's what separates, I think, the good fighters from the bad, the people who get the basics in place, and that's what they're trying to teach me to then slowly upgrade. But if you think I'm going to look like MVP by the time, I've come out in one of my first fight, you're going to be sorely mistaken. Because that guy is an absolute machine. I've seen his career develop, and he does stuff that I'm like, makes me want to go home and hug my mum. You know what I mean? Like he's unbelievable. So I will do what the best I can do, and I'll do it in the best way possible.
And sorry, I was going to just follow up. You've been an elite sportsman for over a decade and a half now. When people embark on their MMA journey, quite often they're beginning their journey in a sport and they're learning as they go. And obviously you're learning mixed martial arts, and you've got a basis that you're building on. But you've also got a decade and a half of experience as an elite athlete and in a contact sport as well. How beneficial is that when you end up facing someone across the cage from you? Because you've got all that experience behind you, the big occasion, the bright lights, being out there with some of the toughest sportsmen on the planet already.
Yeah, I think, look, there's no doubt that there are elements of what happened in my past life to take into this. One of the things I've seen in the fighting world, because without organisations like Bellator who start taking fighters on, it can be a little bit like the Wild West. You get guys in there, they're self-funding, they've got other requirements, they've got family life. I've always been part of a team, so my only concern was being as dedicated as I possibly could, the application I applied myself, and how hard-working I was. So you see a lot of fighters who could make it to the top, but they get sidetracked, they get lost. So for me, I think hopefully what I will bring, the lessons, will be the dedication, will be the focus, will the fact that I will turn up to train, I will commit to what I'm doing. I think, the pitfalls of media, the pitfalls of, that pressure, dealing with that pressure, not getting caught up in a sideshow. I think it will be hard, it'll be a test for me again, because I said, I've always been part of a team. You can always kind of almost hide behind the rest of your team. If you're not feeling great, you can get protected. There's not really anywhere to hide here. So I think it's an interesting test for me. But I think there are elements that I will definitely take across, that professionalism, the expectations I have on my coaches and they have on me, what's supposed to be delivered and what it takes to be successful. And also, as I said, I've adjusted my life back to being a professional sportsman. So I'll start working with my sports psychologist again, start dealing with those things. I'll start, striving to get in the best possible shape. All these kind of elements will kick back in, but I've already got them saved up because I've only been retired 3 months or whatever it is.
And you talked about telling your family about all this and the reaction. What do Richard and Judy think of this?
They were unbelievably supportive. They're always supporting everything I do. I didn't manage to convince them to come down to a rugby game because of their schedule, but I'm pretty certain that minimum we're going to get Richard down to a Bellator fight. As long as I get him good seats, and because I think he's going to need to put his arm around my wife and look after her. I think one thing she could deal with was rugby, but fighting might test her, but we'll see. Because she cries at anything anyway. She's the most emotional, loving person in the world. So I don't think with a camera pans her and she's crying again, it will be a good idea.
Anyone else before we go to the little scrum? Well, thanks very much for joining us today. I think we're going to get you all together around in a minute. You can talk to James then. But thanks very much. We are certainly excited here at Bellator. I think we've got a huge few months ahead of us, both with fights. We've got a Dublin event that's live on Channel 5 on 27th of September coming up in a few weeks' time. But, yeah, very happy to have our new signing, heavyweight, Mr. James Haskell. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Yeah, fine.